Welcome to the presentation, Bringing the River Back to Life. My name is Malley. I'm the Biodiversity Manager with Armagh City, Banbridge and Craigavon Borough Council. I'm going to be talking today about some of the work that we're undertaking on the Blackwater catchment. Just a quick outline of the overall project outputs. We're undertaking 3 water quality projects on the River Finn catchment, which is based mostly in Donegal and partially in Derry. The Arney catchment, which is mostly located in Fermanagh, but also partly in Cavan and Leitrim. And the one I'm interested in, which is the Blackwater, which is located in County Monaghan in the Republic and in County Tyrone and County Armagh in Northern Ireland. Look at some of the water quality trends that exist in Ireland. We have taken some data from the Environmental Protection Agency. If you look at the histograms below, we've outlined the data from 2007 to 2009 in blue, from 2010 to 2015 in orange, and up to 2018 in grey. Under the Water Framework Directive, the rivers are categorised as high, good, moderate, poor or bad water quality status. And you'll see from the 2 sets of histograms that we've ringed in red that there has been an approximately 1/3 drop in the percentage of rivers that are in the high category and a consequent increase in those that are in the poor category. So in the Republic of Ireland, there has been a reduction in water quality, and it's only marginally better in Northern Ireland. That's in spite of the objective of the directive, which was to improve water quality right throughout the island. If we look at the Blackwater catchment in more detail, we have colour-coded all the tributaries, all the rivers. Blue signifies those with the highest water quality, green is good, yellow is moderate, orange is poor, and red is bad. And generally speaking, the water quality decreases as we run from west to east across the catchment, partially due to the higher population intensity that exists in the east of the catchment. So we're progressing various in-stream and repairing works in conjunction with the farmers. We're also liaising with the regulatory authorities to get the appropriate consents in place. And as a separate project, we're working with the farming community to take soil samples from individual fields. And in conjunction with the Agri-Foods Business Institute, we're providing some education and awareness raising to farmers to show them the problems of putting excess nutrient onto their soils. So what are the problems? We have access for the cattle, generally speaking, to the river itself. They go down there to drink, and this has caused extensive erosion of the riverbanks. As the cattle poach the riparian area, the river then is able to erode it even more. There's a lack of suitable riparian buffer zones and no fencing or little fencing. And this has caused an ingress of silt into the river. As a consequence, the bed tends to get clogged up with silt, and that has degraded the habitat for both fish and invertebrates. This has come about because of the intensive farming practices. The Blackwater catchment is the most intensively farmed catchment within Northern Ireland. And it's a lack of education and awareness amongst farmers who are generally trying to farm reasonably environmentally friendly and sustainably. So we've obviously obtained a lot of information from the 2 authorities on either side of the border. That's enabled us to identify the pathways and the pressures on the system to produce risk maps and identify the types of areas that we need to undertake work. But it's a particularly big catchment, and in order to prioritise works, we decided to concentrate on rivers of moderate water quality status with the intention of trying to bring them up to good status. And those represent about nearly half the rivers within the catchment. With assistance from our partners in Fisheries Ireland, they undertook a hydromorphological assessment and rated the rivers. So we started work on those with the highest rating and worked our way down that list. We also undertook consultation with stakeholders. The Environment Protection Agency, for example, had identified the mountain water as one river that particularly needed work. So we're going to be undertaking projects on that river. Similarly, we've undertaken the opportunity to develop joint projects where other people have funding. In this case of this catchment, we're working with DAERA in fisheries in the north to do some work in the Ballygolly River, and also with the Blackwater catchment, who have some funding to do work on the Blackwater itself. And that enables us to really ramp up some of the work that they're doing and improve the water quality as a result. To understand why the river is so badly eroded, you need to know that back in the 60s and early 70s, there was an extensive arterial drainage of the Blackwater catchment. The bed was lowered about 1.5 meters, and it was extensively straightened. There was no fencing and no buffer strips, and cattle had complete access to the sites. And this is largely contributed to the erosion. As the bed was lowered, the energy in the river didn't get a chance to create meanders, and as a consequence, it's just constantly eroding the bank. Although there was no fencing of the river, there was a mass planting of alders during the arterial drainage. Alders have a life expectancy of about 50 to 70 years, we found, and they're now dying and falling into the river. The space where the root ball was leaves exposed soil, and as a result, this helps the erosion of the river bank. And here we have an example of several alders fell into the river, and the original fencing has now been, or the original bank has been eroded back well behind where the fencing of the river took place. The Blackwater catchment has fairly heavy soils, clay soils, particularly at the north end of the catchment. And that, with the rain that we associate with Ireland, means that a lot of the soils tend to be saturated. And you can see from this example of the Killybressel River in County Monaghan that any nutrient or slurry that the farmer puts in the soil will just get washed off immediately into the river, causing pollution. So we know, provided by the various agencies, that it's runoff from intensive agriculture that's largely causing the failure of the failure in status of the water bodies. In particular, it's the nutrients, phosphates and nitrates, and agricultural practice, along with the erosion of the river, is causing silt to carpet the bed of the river and reducing the habitat for invertebrates and for fish. So these are some of the solutions that we've come up with. Unfortunately, because of the high energy level in the river as a result of the arterial drainage, we can't use exclusively green infrastructure to try and protect from erosion. In this case, we've used boulders to pin up the bank, and we've put some coconut matting on the riparian area to prevent further erosion. But we have taken the opportunity of using locally sourced trees to pin them along the bank in front of the boulders. which helps to also protect the bank, and more particularly helps to reduce and remove some of the energy from the river, thereby reducing erosion further down. This is a project we're doing in conjunction with DAERA on the Ballygolly River. DAERA are doing the revetment. They're putting boulders up to protect the riverbank and reduce erosion. And we're putting down some rubber mats to improve the in-stream habitat. This is it in more detail. So the rubber matting, which we install, creates both diversity and habitat for fish and invertebrates. And it also helps to absorb some of the energy from the river as well. Also take the opportunity to create some deflectors by putting some cobble into the river. As you can see from this river, it's extremely straight. There are no meanders, and the river, the energy in the river tends to erode out of the bed or the bank. And we're trying to recreate a more natural system where the deflectors will help to remove a bit of energy and also create a more natural meander system with a better habitat for fish life and for invertebrates. In this example, we've added a pool and riffle system to an otherwise uniform bed. Now, after we have finished the in-stream works on the rivers, we undertake some riparian fencing. Generally speaking, we like to put it back at least 5 meters from the river edge, and that's to prevent poaching of the bank and also to prevent the cows and cattle from accessing the river. We also take the opportunity where there are pathways into the river, such as low points in the field, to extend the fencing back to fence more extensive areas within the field. In order to keep cattle out of the river, we've got to provide sources of water. And here's an example of a solar pump which can supply drinking water to cattle over about 60 acres. Remember, this is an intensively farmed catchment, and therefore there's a lot of dairy cattle and they need quite a lot of water to drink. We also, within these riparian areas, plant generally with native species of trees. That's done to protect the banks and also to absorb some of the nutrient that's getting washed off the field. So that's a summary of the work that we're taking on the Blackwater. If you'd like to see some more, we've produced a series of videos and I refer you especially to caring for the river catchments, pressures and solutions. The work that I've talked about today is largely that of one of our project officers, Tom Woods. And if you wish to have a look at further information, I provided a link at the very bottom of the slide. Hope you enjoyed the presentation and thank you for listening.